Okay. Welcome back, Jack. So how do you do the artistic research? Let's talk about that. We kind of till now we talked about what it is. But there is a really clear process, method to do this. As much as I've given you all this freedom to choose your topic and your question, there is a process of standard things which you need to do to do a proper research. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that in a nutshell, and then we're going to talk really briefly through the research proposal, which is the end of this class, which is due in December. So in a way, we're going to take a whole semester to make your proposal. So now we understand that it's a kind of big process. Okay, so your artistic research, it starts with your motivation. And that's like, who are you as an artist? Like, what motivates you? And that is, what you do, but it's also your experiences, your thoughts, and what you like, and what you're attracted to, what kind of vision you have. Often a motivation is like written like, when I was young, I went to this concert and I saw this piece for 5 snare drums, and then they did this amazing sound, and it made this wall of sound which overtook the whole orchestra, and it was such an incredible, simple gesture at the time, and I was so amazed at how simplicity and sound can be so powerful. I don't know, I'm making this up, right? Based on a story somebody told me yesterday. And then so that would be like, that's like your motivation. That's this like life-changing experience you had in your past, which is then in leading to what your research is going to be. But it's also like what you do, where you come from, what kind of music you play, or place, things like that. So that's your motivation, and then you have your topic, and the topic is the area of your research. So in this example, it might be the power. Well, let's say your topic would be composition in this case. So maybe it's a composer who experienced this amazing sound, and then they want to use that kind of power in their own compositions. So the topic is like, electroacoustic composition, or acoustics in composition, something like that. So that's the area of the topic. And then you have your question: how can I create powerful gestures through simple means, or something like that, or through how can I use percussion to create new sound worlds? I don't know. We can have a number of different questions that might fit this one experience, and then that's something that you would make from all the different elements. Next week, we're going to delve in more detail into research questions and how they work. But for now, we'll just leave it at that. So we have our motivation, you have your topic, your area, and then you have your research question. And the research question is very specific because it says what you're researching. And so when you're going to put that on the front page of your paper, or in the beginning, so we know what you're working on. And also it's a question which you then answer by the end of your research. So those are the 3 sort of introductory things. The 4th introductory thing will be your reference recording. So that means you're going to make a recording of you playing whatever piece. If you're researching a piece or researching a type of improvisation or a type of articulation or a way of teaching, you're going to have a video of you doing that. So this is going to be, well, null mating. What is that in English? Sort of a basic starting point. What? A baseline. Yeah, it's like a baseline. Thank you. Baseline recording of where you are today. And of course you're already working on something you have some experience in. So it's not a thing where you want to try to make it simple so that you have farther to grow, but you also don't want to have all the ready to answer in your recording. You just actually it's the recording the best you can do before you do the research. That's what it is. So, and if you're a composer, then it might be some scores that have some relation to your topic in question. And the reason we have this reference recording, there are several reasons. First of all, it's to have this baseline recording so we can compare that to the end. Number two, it's the starting point for how you develop your methodology. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take that recording and you're going to play it for your teacher, and you're going to play it for other experts, maybe even your friends who have some ideas, and you're going to ask for feedback. And your teacher's going to say this, this, and this, and this. Oh, I think this and this. And they'll probably say a bunch of things which are totally unrelated to your research question, but are also things you're going to work on. But you're going to get feedback from them, and you're also going to reflect yourself on the recording. And say, well, you know, my improvisation was not bad on those chords, but when I really want to develop a sort of timing which is more related to Thelonious Monk, and I did it pretty well in the first bar, but after that it got too smooth. It sounded more like Brad Mehldau than Thelonious Monk, right? So these are the kinds of thoughts that we have as artists, which are very detailed, specific, and based on our knowledge. And those are the starting points for how you're going to do your research. The reflection of yourself and the feedback from others. So your teacher's going to say this and this and this, and you're going to have those feedback, and other experts will say this, and then you're going to say, okay, what I need to do is I need to do a rhythmic analysis of Thelonious Monk, and I need to compare articulations of Brad Mehldau, and I need to also, basically what you're going to do is you're going to design all the tools of the research. And it's going to be analysis, it's going to be the musicological research, it's going to be like literature. We're going to go into all these in a few weeks, but I'll just mention a few of them now. It's going to be literature research, it's going to be looking at videos and recordings, it's going to be interviews, it's going to be experimentation, everything. These are all the different things. And so you have your problem here, and then you're going to start researching it from different perspectives. So you're going to sort of triangulate this research through all these different tools. And then by putting them all together, you come to a really convincing information about it. So, and the design of those tools and the process, it all comes from your reference recording and that starting point and the feedback and reflection that you had. And how that's related to your research question, right? So all these things they're all connected. There's lines between them all, and they all influence each other. Yeah. You need to go. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Ciao. Did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
About the recording, does it have to be the same piece, like in the beginning and in the end, to be able to compare it?
Well, ideally it should be, yeah. So if you're doing a performance practice analysis, artistic research on some Prokofiev sonata, you might record record it, or the first part of it, and then you would have a new recording at the end. And it could be that you do that several times for each movement, if that's what you're going to do. But we have to see. We have to see what's relevant and how far you want to go. So, for example, in Rotterdam, when they break the research up into cycles, 3 different cycles, and each cycle will have its own reference recording. We're not going to require that here, but it could be that some of your researches, like if you're going to do a Prokofiev sonata and you want to look at 3 different movements, you might have a bit of each movement and a first and a last recording of each one. That can also happen. But if you're looking into articulation or timing as a jazz pianist, you might start with Monk and then go to Bobby Timmons and then end with Meldau. And you might do 3 different explorations of their articulations. And then you might have different recordings. And then you might start with some basic recording of you playing. And then you would do all this analysis and exploration of these 3 different pianists. And at the end, you might have that same piece that you recorded in the beginning where you incorporated everything you learned from these 3 different topics you looked into, or artists. Yeah?
And can I incorporate other performance?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It could also be that you have a concert which you played last month, and you could use that as your reference recording. It doesn't have to be, sometimes we have singers who take their latest opera recording and then that's their baseline recording to then develop. So it's anything that gives us a good starting point where we can see what you do. That's all what it is. And then people can watch it and give you some feedback. And you give yourself feedback. Okay, so then we've got that. You design your methodology, and then you carry it out. So you read the books, read the articles, listen to the recordings, watch the videos, you interview the experts, you do the case studies, observations, you do experimentation, surveys, feedback. You reflect upon all of that information. So I just blew through it. We were going to go into details about all these things, so don't worry about it. I'm just trying to give you an overview. But every step along the way, your ideas are really important. So you have to be thinking about what you think about things and writing that down. So get a book, make a folder on your computer for all of your thoughts. Be documenting everything. Use your voice memo on the phone. If you're out going for a walk and you have some ideas, record it. And then, really important, give the recording a title, which has a date and a couple words about the content, right?
Or if you forget, just take like an hour to sit in the chair, listen back to recordings, and try to remember.
Yeah.
It also works, but less.
Yeah, it saves you so much time to categorize it right when you make it.
It's always fun to try to guess from the numbers which where was I.
It's also just a timer, like, wow.
Okay, so this is a tool you guys already know. Right, I also use it extensively in my own work. Okay, so you've done all this study, right? We call that the data collection, the analysis, everything I said, the reading, the listening, the watching, interviewing, blah, blah. And then comes the most important part of your research, artistic research, which is the intervention. This is where you intervene in your art, which means you make changes and you take decisions. And you say, okay, now at the beginning of the solo, I'm going to take a lot of space like Monk and make it really angular. And then later on, I'm going to bring in some more fast, more fluid passages like Meldau or so, right? So what I did is I told you what I'm going to do, and then I make the recording and I show that. But I've decided, on the basis of all the analysis which I just did, about what my choices are. And I'm going to also say why they are. I think that the solo should start out slow, and that really fits well with a kind of monk style. And although I'm using different harmonies than monk might use, but the articulation is like, so then you explain it. And then you have a recording that goes with that. But this intervention is a really important part. It's basically your decisions based on the research. And those are the moments where you have then grown as an artist. So you're going to be telling us what your intervention is, what your decisions are, and then we're going to see the recording. So, the result is going to be a recording. It's going to be a text, and it also might be some annotated scores. Like if you're a classical musician, you might have some scores, or jazz, you might give a diagram. So you're going to use all the different ways that you can think of to bring over to get the information across. And it's not just going to be words on the page in dry academic language. Because if you do that, no one wants to read it. And they also won't know what you're talking about, So this is the other sort of beauty about artistic research, is we get to use creative writing, and we get to use recordings and diagrams and scores and pictures, or whatever you can use, or live performance, where you say, well, I've developed this kind of articulation and this is how it sounds. See, I could do it like this, but if I hold my bow like this, then it sounds like this, right? So you're just showing it, demonstrating it. So little videos, whatever. It's not necessary. If in this example, where you have a slightly different position of your finger and bow arm to get a different articulation, trying to describe that in words will take you pages. But a video is super clear and really effective. So these are the kinds of tools I would really love you guys to use. We're going to explore all that later. We'll have some classes on creative writing and different ways of doing creative writing as an artistic researcher. Okay, so that's the whole research in a nutshell. You'll turn in your paper. The deadline is March 15th. Just a little bit of the nuts and bolts. February 15th, 2024, right? Because we're 22, 23, and then 24 is when you guys will graduate. February 15th, you will turn in the first version of your paper, and then you'll get a go or a no-go from your mentor. If they think it's in shape to be finished, then you'll get a go, and then you have 1 month to take their feedback and finish it. So that means March 15th would be the deadline. This is all in the protocol, by the way. That's the ending. And then probably at the end of the second semester this year, we will have some sort of feedback moment on your progress. I'm working backwards. And then at the end of this semester, on the 2nd of December, you have to turn in your research proposal. So we have some months to do that. But as you're going to see, this research proposal, it's not just thinking of what you want to do and then writing it down. No, there's already a lot of research and preparation and interviews and recording and also some reading and stuff. So there are a lot of facets to your research proposal, which I'm going to talk about now. And this is why we take this whole semester to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly the parts of the research proposal, and then you have a bit of a homework for some of them. Anyway, the proposal This is also in the protocol. It name, instrument, your teacher, your mentor, your title, and then it has an introduction where you talk about your motivation, you talk about the topic, the field, the context, and you also talk about the goals of your research. I want to create a greater variety of expressive articulation in my jazz solos, right? That would be a goal. And then you would have a specific question. How can I incorporate the articulation of Monk and Meldau into my solos, right? Okay, so that's your introduction. Then you have your research question, sub-questions. I just talked about that. And then you have your relevant sources and media. And so now we have two different types of sources. We have sources which we use for our proposal, and then we have sources for the research. So in the beginning, and they may be the same also, but they also might be different. The beginning is where you're using your sources, which are videos and books, to pinpoint what it is you want to research. So if it's jazz articulation with Monk and Meldau, and it turns out someone already wrote a book about it, you might want to then say, Monk, Meldau, and Timmins, or Oscar Peterson. And so then, right, so this whole semester right now is going to be about learning about what's out there in the world, literature, approaches, people, and then defining where we sit in that world, right? Because you need to position yourself. So, so if you say, how do I do Baroque ornamentation on violin? There's 500 books about that. But if it's how can I apply the approach of a specific approach to ornamentation to my performance of the Bach partita, then you start to get more specific, right? In the beginning, you may think, oh, Jesus, everything's already been done and by great people. But when we talk about artistic research, starting from your vision and your idea, it already becomes individual, unique, and then by definition, not like anything else. So that makes it easy, actually. But you do need to know those books about Baroque ornamentation, about jazz articulation, whatever your topic is. You need to know what are the main literature sources out there, also recordings, practitioners. We need to know. And you need to tell us. So that's also going to be part of your proposal. And then not only you're going to mention them, but you're going to maybe say a few lines. Oh, this is a book about Monk's music, and in the second chapter he talks about his articulation, and I find it particularly relevant for me for this reason, right? So this is this idea of reflection and expressing your reflection in your research. You're going to be actively involved in all the different facets of your research, and then telling us what you think about it. Okay, so that's the sources and media. Next, your network. So your network is going to be 5 to 10 people who are relevant for you. And, first of all, it's going to have your main subject teacher. And, your network it should be people that you have access to. So maybe definitely your main subject teacher, but maybe also your previous teachers from where you come from, other people who you think you could have access to. Could be some colleagues, some friends, could be me. You have to think, who are the relevant people? And, if you're doing like body percussion and singing, Bobby McFerrin might be a really relevant person for you. And who knows, if you send him an email, he might even answer. But
He's pretty chill about it.
yeah. So think big with your, think international about your network. Not only who lives on your block, but definitely, have some people who are easily accessible. Okay, so that's your network. As a part of your proposal, you're going to have to interview 2 people from that network. So, not yet, but in a week or 2, when you kind of know what your topic is, you'll go to your teacher, Bert van der Brink, and you say, I really want to work on jazz articulation, and I was thinking about Monk and Meldau, and he says, yeah, those guys are great, but did you check out such so and so? And then all of a sudden, Bert van der Brink, who's a great jazz pianist here, right? He says he's burst open your whole bubble about your topic, because he has expertise and he knows the relevant people. And then you say, yeah, screw Monk, I'm going to go and research this person. I love Monk, so no problem there. But just to show you that these interviews of experts related to your topic are really important for you to know what you're talking about. And this is what your teacher is here for. But if you're studying with Aldo and you want to do circular breathing, the only thing he'll say is go to Ned or Mark or read the book from Robert Dick, because that's not his area of expertise. So, and his talents are really great with orchestral and classical music, and that's probably why you're here. But this thing about getting more contextualization from your teacher is really important. But it could, like I said, could also be that you want to go in a direction where your teacher is not an expert, and then you want to talk to other people, right? That's very much normal with these kinds of things, and it should be. And hopefully, your teacher will do their best to help you. That's what they're here for, particularly from the masters. Okay. Next, reference recording. So you need to make a recording, put it online for now, and make a link to it. So you're all going to send in a document, and there should be a link. I should be able to click on it and see that. Whether it's Vimeo or right now we can use YouTube or whatever, Google Docs. Just needs to be accessible. Okay, as a part of that recording, you're going to have reflection by yourself, and you're going to have feedback from at least 2 other sources. Right, so this is why we're going to make this recording somewhere maybe in October, and then in November you're going to get, or very soon after you make the recording, you're going to have to ask people for feedback. So you send them the link, they send you an email back with some feedback, or you play it in your lesson and you record the feedback, or you take notes or so. Well, Bert said this about my playing and suggested these people and thought I should look at this, right? So that's part of your proposal, is to have already done that. And like I said, on the basis of that feedback and your own reflection, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to make these exercises. I'm going to analyze that recording, and I'm going to interview Bobby McFerrin. Okay. So that's your recording, and then you have the methods, which I just told you. So that you don't have to do. So don't do the research yet. We're just doing the preparation. Some people turn in their proposal and they've already like done the research. No, it's the what I just said, the interviews, the experimentation, the research tools that you will carry out. You're going to talk about them there. What are you going to do? This is why I call the research proposal just a to-do list. And so you have to think of what's relevant. And like I said, we will explore all of those. Then a couple other facets to your proposal is how you're planning to apply your findings to your practice. So I will be doing let's say jazz articulation. So I'm going to put that into my improvisations. What are your intended artistic results? So not the result already, but what are you planning to do? So I'm going to use it in my improvisations, or I'm going to create a new interpretation of this Prokofiev sonata. What are the artistic results? How are you going to apply those tools? I'm going to be looking at articulation, dynamics, and tempo analysis, and creating a new version of this piece. And then you tell us what's the form of presentation. Are you going to make a live performance? Are you going to make a video? I encourage some kind of video, maybe a video of a live performance, which goes into your document. But some people have done creative things where they make a podcast or they make a produced video. That's also possible. And then the last point for your research proposal is the planning. And that's where you're going to say when you're going to do things. I'm going to take February for the interviews. I'm going to be February and March. I'm going to be developing exercises and so forth. So you just spell it out, what you're going to do when. Try to make it as practical as possible and realistic. So then you'll have your to-do list, and then you just carry it out. It's really easy. Okay, so this is the proposal due the 2nd of December. Are there any questions about that? It's a lot of information, I know. And we will go over each of them again. This is also in the protocol. And I could send it to you guys too. Yeah.
Just about so we have interviewed 2 people, but then after the recording, we're also asking for 2 people to give feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 2 separate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Could be the same people too, but it's 2 separate feedback moments.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good question, Itana, right? Inanna. Because what we're doing is we are using our network in our research. So it's not just us alone in our room practicing and typing. No, we're talking to people, we're getting ideas. So you are part of a world, a community, a scene, a context, and you need to interact with that world and learn from it, and also teach it through the results of your research. So it means you have to bug your teacher and call them up and send them recordings and ask them. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky. Sometimes they don't answer, and so you have to kind of figure that out. But most people, even Bobby McFerrin, if you are honest and you're looking for knowledge, they will want to share it, right? That's what artists do. They share their knowledge. So if you need some information from some conductor or whatever, well, write them and see if you can get an answer, and you'd be surprised how often that is successful. While I'm thinking about it, this is just for the proposal, right? But when you go to carry out your research, it could be that you're doing a thing into Baroque ornamentation and you want to go have some lessons from some expert. like Jed Wentz on the Baroque Traverso. And in that case, you can apply for some money to get lessons, right? We talked about this in the introduction. So that is also possible. In the course of your research, if you need some expertise, which is not available from the current teachers here, or even if they are from here, you know, like if you wanted to study circular breathing with me, you could probably do that as a second subject, and we could make that a formalized thing. But there is possibility to get some budget to take lessons from outside. You guys ought to know, but that's
Well, we could tap into your money.
We have a congress money. Want to go to a congress?
Yeah, I'm sure you have some possibilities.
Conference, not a congress. Yeah, if you go to congress, you can also do
Yeah.
political. I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the proposal. Any other questions about that? No? Okay. So what I want to do now we go to 12:30, right? Okay. Perfect. We're going to take 10 minutes, and I want you guys to do whatever on your laptop or in your book, a free writing exercise where you talk about your topic, your question, your ideas. Just start, maybe you've already done this, but start writing down what you would like to research. So, you know, a little bit of your motivation, a little bit the topic, what are some of the questions. Just doesn't have to be at all formal, but just write a few. We're going to take 10 minutes for that. And then we're going to break up into groups, and you guys are going to explain it to each other and then get feedback. Okay? And then
Stream of consciousness, right?
well, whatever. However, right now it's a sort of free, open writing exercise to get at what is the thing that you want to work on, develop in your research. We're going to take some time for that, 10 minutes for that, and then we will meet in groups. And then if we have time at the end, we can kind of share some of that stuff. Okay? Go for it.